Before we begin, I'd like to take a moment to thank our sponsors without whom this would not have been possible. Firstly, huge thanks to the University of Mumbai for giving us this wonderful space. It's quite stunning, really, and given Wikipedia's close relationships with education, especially in India over the last few months, we're happy to be here and we're happy that they've hosted us. We'd like to thank Microsoft Research, our gold sponsors, Yebi.com, our silver sponsors, the Omidyar Network, our infrastructure sponsors, Ang India, our jobs sponsors, SarkariNaukri.com, our registration partner who you all use to register for the conference, eReg Now, our social media partner, Avignata Incorporated. If you are tweeting, please use the hashtag WCI11. We'd like to thank our PR partner for getting word out, our global relation called Global Public Relations Text 100, our out-of-home partner, the Digital Signage Network, our security partner who've been very efficient and very polite and have made this so much easier, Security Sukhi, our stationery partners who sponsored all of the stationery and the folders. You've got Coris and Samrat pencils, and we'd like to thank our event managers, Panache, and I hope you all had a great party last evening at Panache as well. So this session has two distinct parts to it. We'll begin with an overview of the India education program, and apologies, I forgot one of our other partners, another silver sponsor, Kal Nirnayam. So this session has two distinct parts. The first two parts of it will cover the India education program. The India education program was the first major program run by the Wikimedia Foundation's India office. For those of you who don't know Hisham Mundol, Hisham, do you want to wave out to everyone? Hisham runs the Wikimedia Foundation's India programs, and they've just set up a trust that will hold these programs. The first program they ran was called the India Education Program. It was done on a pilot basis in a bunch of colleges in Pune. It ran from June to November 2011, and the primary idea was to get colleges and educational institutions interested in Wikipedia. It wasn't so much to just get them to use Wikipedia, but to fulfill a very primary objective of have students edit Wikipedia. It was run in collaboration with colleges, students, and teachers, and the idea was to include editing Wikipedia to dovetail in with their academic programs. First up, we have Sriketh. Sriketh was the Wikimedia Foundation's fellow for this program in Pune. Sriketh was a campus ambassador. He studies at Symbiosis in Pune, and he'll give us an overview of the program that ran from June, July to November.
Thank you, Gautam. Good morning, everyone. Let me start off with one of the most iconic images of the global education program. This is a bunch of campus ambassadors from Washington, D.C., freshly minted campus ambassadors. And, well, the message there is quite profound, and I'd like that to remain in the back of your minds as you go through this entire session. The age of nations is past. It remains for us now, if we do not wish to perish, to set aside ancient prejudices and build Wikipedia. Let me tell you a bit about myself. I'm Sriketh. I'm an India community member. I'm user Sriketh on the English Wikipedia, where I'm also an administrator. I'm a member of the Wikimedia India chapter, and I was a fellow with the campus program pilot in Pune from June to August, and continued as an IEP volunteer. And also, I'm an MBA student at Symbiosis Institute of Media Communication, Pune. Let me give you a brief overview of the global education program. It started off with the Public Policy Initiative. The Public Policy Initiative was funded by the Stanton Foundation, who gave a grant to the Wikimedia Foundation to run a program to improve articles on public policy in colleges in the US. Was a fair success, which kind of inspired the global education program, and it kind of aligned with the strategic priorities to increase participation using through countries in the global south, which are India, Brazil, and Africa, where the population centers are, but as far as Wikipedia is concerned, they don't exist, and this led to a lot of systemic bias. The systemic bias was such that the traditional Wikipedia editor, the quintessential Wikipedia editor, was young, white, male, and lived in the US. mostly on the eastern seaboard. And well, to counter that, the Global Education Program sought to drive participation to Wikipedia through colleges. The approach was initially, as Gautam introduced, Hisham Mandol was appointed the consultant of the India programs. An office for the Wikimedia Foundation was set up in Delhi. Then went about the process of putting out global notices for applications for campus ambassadors for the program, where a bunch of people applied, and Hisham, I understand, quite painstakingly interviewed several participants. And then again, then the heads of the Global Education Program, Frank Schillenberg and Annie Lin, made it to India, where we went and approached a whole bunch of colleges in Pune. Pune, as you all know, is one of the top educational centers in India, where where it's said, it's a static figure, and you really can't quote me on that, but it's about 1 lakh students in that city. So it seemed like the best place to run this pilot program. And then we moved on. Once the campus ambassadors were selected, the colleges were roughly tied up. There was a campus ambassador training where the campus ambassadors were taught not just Wikipedia editing, not just the policies of Wikipedia, but how to approach students, how to be a good teacher, how to listen to what they have to say, how to counter problems that might be commonly faced in the program. And then we move on to the methodology. It started off in the selected colleges with introduction sessions where people were told basics about Wikipedia, because everyone has this transient idea about Wikipedia. It kind of concretized. Moved on to editing sessions where they were taught basics of Wikipedia editing, markup, syntax, how you write articles, how to fix various things, how to not break Wikipedia, let's say. Program moved on. Students worked on a system of deadlines where they were supposed to do certain tasks through certain deadlines. And often, as we would find in any learning process, there were stumbles, and we held a lot of remedial sessions for students who didn't quite get the hang of the session. And then the program ran into a bit of a border with a bunch of copy bios. As, well, we all might be familiar, being the education system of India, there's a lot of plagiarism rampant. And what happened here was the students tried to emulate the same on Wikipedia, where the tools and the volunteers are there to check every single article. So copy bias became a major, not just a editorial problem for the foundation, but even a legal one. So copy bias sessions were held to remedy that problem. Let me move on to the results. Reactions from institutions were mixed in the way that we had some professors who were completely into the program. One of whom is right here, Ms. Ishita from Symbiosis School of Economics, who I believe we couldn't have found a better person to get into the program from the institution side. And then we had a lot of other people, a lot of other professors who were skeptical about it, who wanted to see what they get from the program, or didn't really get the program but were enthusiastic with the amount of press they might get from the initiative in some way. Again, move on to the students. The students were, well, the reaction was mixed. We had some extremely enthusiastic students. I recall one student, Abhilasha from the Symbiosis School of Economics, who is a fantastic Wikipedian, who has written a GA by herself, 2 GAs, I suppose, by herself. And but there were also students who weren't really quite into the program, who were like, this is just another assignment and I don't really want to work so hard for it. Ambassadors have been the biggest find of this program, in my opinion, because they have started off from, well, if I may say so, noobs who didn't know anything about Wikipedia, to fantastic Wikipedians who are completely into the program, who are dedicated to the cause, who bring in this fresh enthusiasm into the program, which well, Wikipedia sorely needed. And the community. Well, the community had mixed reactions to this too. They were happy with the fact that the foundation was finally stepping up and putting interest and giving back to the Indian community in some way by investing in this program. However, the level of interaction that they sought from the program wasn't quite there, in their opinion. Let me put this small quote. This is not verbatim, but it is from Hisham Mandol, who is the consultant of the programs. It's important that we decide one way of doing the program and stick with the core principles of it. This would be better than trying several approaches, failing and not knowing where we went wrong. I believe this was the core objective of the program, since it was a pilot. So I therefore brand it to be a successful pilot. in the way that it ran into problems. I would not say it failed. It achieved its objectives of figuring out how the global education program could be applied in the Indian context. There were also, moving on to what I believe would help future versions of the India education program, would be limiting participation to voluntary participation, considering that most of the copy bios came from students who didn't want to be in the program. They were caught in this, the program was exciting for us as Wikipedians. It was exciting for the campus ambassadors who were taking up a new role. It was exciting for the community on the whole, but the students who really, we can't expect them to care suddenly about Wikipedia, saw this as another assignment, and well, we ran into problems there. Again, another issue was we start small, where we limited the number of students in the program. We could improve the ratio of campus ambassadors to students, where each campus ambassador therefore now has lesser number of students and can give more quality per student to ensure that the student understands the tenets of Wikipedia in some way. And also another problem we ran into during the program was OAs, online ambassadors, Online ambassadors were ambassadors who would remotely help the students in the program to to solve their problems about Wikipedia. But then online ambassadors didn't really understand their role. Their role definition was ambiguous in their opinion, and they didn't really have a great part to play in this, and therefore defining their role and recruiting them at the commencement. The online ambassadors in the program were recruited somewhere along the way. So that would help. And finally, I believe, and this is one of the discussions that have followed the end of the campus program. What happened here was, it was suggested that maybe campus ambassadors should be experienced. They should maybe have an edit limit of sorts, an arbitrary edit limit of maybe 500 edits before they enter the program. I don't believe that's the right way. Some of our best campus ambassadors have come from the programs who are completely new to the program. PJ Tabbitt was one of the fellows who came into the program, and he too was not a Wikipedian when he started off, but I can't really imagine anyone else who's a better trainer of students in some way. But we have to modify this campus ambassador training. The campus ambassador training needs to include more aspects of Wikipedia editing, more aspects of bonding with the community, I suppose. And moving on, I believe sticking to colleges as a medium of selecting students needs to be given away, and instead we kind of move on to recruiting students just the way we recruit campus ambassadors. Allow them to move in. Allow them to come through maybe geo notices. We select them individually based on their interest. The same way, going back to the old point of voluntary involvement. Professors too often were forced in by the institutional bonds to come into the program. They too should have an opt-in. And finally, yes, there needs to be a full-time, there was, but it was transient, so I suppose a full-time overseeing of the program through a fellowship or through a fixed employee is necessary. Again, I would like to make a disclaimer here that what I say as a fellow for the campus program, I had the unique opportunity to have a view of the program. And so these are my opinions. And I now move on to the discussion that will follow in the roundtable. And thank you very much for your time, and thank you.
So the next part of this track on the India education program will be curated by Hisham. Hisham, along with 3 campus ambassadors, 4 students, and 3 teachers from the Pune pilot, will do a little more of a deep dive into each of some of the things that Sriket touched upon from his experiences. Just one request to all speakers familiar with Wikipedia, could we try and expand the full form? So GA is a good article and a copy VIO is a copyright violation. So Hisham, over to you.
All right, just one small administrative correction. We don't have 4 students now, we have only 3, but this is how the India education system works. I hope he's okay. Sriket gave an insight into the program and why it started. The question, and for some of you who are experienced Wikipedia lists, you'll know that we've had a bunch of discussions about the program. I suspect I would not give as ringing an endorsement as Sriket gave about it being a successful pilot. Pilots are there because you're trying new things. when you're ambitious and when you have challenges, you need to try and do new and different and tough things, and sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. However, what we want to do, and this is part of an ongoing set of initiatives, is to have an honest and objective discussion about it, because it's essential that we don't lose everything by saying that there was some copy bio problem, so the whole initiative failed. What we have here is a remarkable bunch of folks, and I'm going to try and introduce them and not get anyone's name right. We have 3 professors from the Symbiosis School of Economics, Shirin, Ishita, and Sukalpa. We have 4 campus ambassadors, Wasim, Abhishek, Devanjan, and Ram. Devanjan's from the second round of campus ambassadors that we recruited. And we have 3 students again from the Symbiosis School of Economics, Anushika, Abhinav, and Sarbartho. What we thought we would do was to have an open discussion about a series of issues. I'm bucketing them in 3 broad areas. One is motivations. Why did you choose to do what you're doing? Did you enjoy it? Would you do it again? What did you get out of it? The second, and I think it's important, is the support component of it. What is it that we could have done as a foundation or as a community or as campus ambassadors to improve aspects of the program? We want to spend some time on program design as well. Shriket's alluded to it. Should you make it voluntary? And I know that the professors have some thoughts about what kind of subject areas we should look at, what kind of, first year, second year, third years. And then the last one is on content per se, challenges on content creation. We've spoken about copy bio, and for those who may not know the term, we had an issue where a bunch of students cut-pasted or copy-pasted stuff from other websites as part of their article. But that was just one of the content creation. Another one was the ability to write encyclopedia quality material fit for Wikipedia, which is also something that we want to talk about. So that's what we're going to try and do, and we'll make sure that we have enough time for questions. And I know that Gautam's timekeeping. So the first question that I had is for Wasim as a campus ambassador. Why did you choose to become a campus ambassador, and how's it been? And we've had one session yesterday, just in the spirit of full disclosure, where we spoke about what we're going to do. But I think everyone knows that you just say it as it is.
Okay. So I've been using Wikipedia as long as I remember. And the first thing what came into my mind when I was being a campus ambassador is that sharing the knowledge which I have, and training the students which are very much new to Wikipedia, and introducing them to a wonderful website known as Wikipedia, and to let them edit to Wikipedia, let them share their ideas, thoughts, and whatever they have about their courses. So to share that same thing onto Wikipedia and sharing that knowledge not only in their colleges but to the entire global community. That was very much challenging, and I had to accept that challenge. That was the reason why I chose to become a campus
And had you edited Wikipedia before then?
Yes, I have edited Wikipedia before that, but not very much like creating an article or so, but a few minor edits and creating some like one-liners or two-liners. That's it.
I want to ask Ishita the same question about why you signed up, because I'll be honest, when we left the meeting at the Symbiosis School of Economics, the first meeting, we weren't particularly sure whether you all were interested or not. There was, in retrospect, a healthy degree of skepticism. But why did you sign up, and would you sign up again?
I'll answer your second question first. Yes, we will sign up again. And I'll go back to the first question. The main reason was it was innovative. The process through which the students would be assessed was innovative. They would be on their own. The learning is what one calls self-learning, and it changes the way they look at being assessed. So we thought it would be a very fresh kind of perspective to bring into the curriculum, and that students should be exposed to an experience like this. However, we definitely had in mind the fact that not everyone would take to it very well, which subsequently we all saw that the quality of articles or maybe copy bio issues, etc., crept in later on. But again, coming back to your second question, despite the pluses and the minuses, I would still say the pluses did override the minuses, and we'll still go forward if we get a chance again.
I'm going to ask Sabato to answer the next question, which is why did you do it? Because, and I know I'm being a little unfair because we have a little bit of inside information, not only did he write his own article, but in violation of the philosophy of Indian education, his own college's principles and many Wikipedia policies, he wrote someone else's article also, or some other people's articles. Why did you do it? I mean, did you enjoy it? Would it have been different if it was voluntary?
Hello. It was voluntary, but the problem was with the student that they don't know how to write the Wikipedia articles. They don't know how to write Wikipedia articles, especially they wrote essay type of articles, like including questions in the article. So I tried to help them, and when as there were deadlines, so they asked me to write the articles for them. So I did, because it was a friendly help.
Okay, help, all right. And his professor's on stage, so we'll hope that she forgives him. I think the next question that we wanted to talk about was on support. And the context of support is that, for those of you who don't know, there is the core principle is that we replace traditional writing assignments with writing a Wikipedia article. The principle being that earlier, kids would go in and copy Wikipedia in their assignments. Here, you're asked to write an article which either doesn't exist or can be improved, which improves your writing skills, your critical thinking skills, your research skills, your collaboration skills, etc., etc. However, to be able to do that, you need someone to assist you and tell you how to edit Wikipedia. The campus ambassadors that Shriketh spoke about are volunteers who signed up to give 3-4 hours of time. Many of them work, most of them are students, and we had a set of training sessions for the ambassadors, and I wanted to ask Ram how you thought the training sessions went and what you think we could have done differently. And Mike.
Hello. Hello. Yeah. Hello. Am I audible? Yes. Okay, cool. So regarding the training program, so I think we had our first training for the first generation of ambassadors somewhere in April. Yeah. So folks from NA or basically states, they traveled all the way, and we got a 2-day training. The best part of campus ambassador program is the 2-day training, actually, where you get to know the strangers on the first day, and second day they become friends. So apart from this, what actually they tell you that how we are going to execute the program. So the first and foremost part is what we are actually creating an image in the minds of students that, hey, Wikipedia is cool. It's fun editing there. Go there, edit an article, and I'm sure you'll enjoy it. So because we have a generation of people who are like Facebook friendly. They don't love sites like Wikipedia because they love it for the assignments, not for the interactions. So what the challenge for us was to create a social interaction on Wikipedia through various mediums. And we used almost all the channels from Facebook to WikiLove and everything, even for phone calls and SMSs. So let's get back to the training. So training was like, we got, most of us were not Wikipedians in past, so we got a bit of training. Very less part focused on the Wikipedia editing, because what they told us, okay, these are the basic skills you need to do, but you can, you can read it on your own. Let's be clear on the core values of this program. The core value is get into the mind of the students that you can easily edit an article and get 4 things out of it. First thing, writing skills. Second, critical thinking and research skills. Third, your collaboration skills, because these days nobody can sit under a tree and invent something. There is no eureka kind of thing. So, and the fourth and foremost part is if I'm if I'm a student of, say, software engineering, and I write an article on, say, artificial intelligence, and if I put that thing in my resume, any IIT employer definitely will love to have a interview with me. So these are the 4 things we tell the students that these are the 4 basic things which we are going to help you with. And So this this was the first level of training. So after the first generation training, we went to the program. I mean, we went to the campus, and we found that there was something missing, and it's a kind of a learning process for us. That okay, what happens is we went to the first sessions was like introduction to the Wikipedia. We introduced the Wikipedia to students, moved on with the editing skills. After editing skills, we taken small workshops and all. But we thought we have a kind of a deadlock that what happens next? So, we started, getting problems that, people are getting blocked and things like that, and the copyright violations. So we actually, in the second generation training, we included those sessions. We created a process for that, and actually used a retaining term called PI arms. PI stands for, first is like planning meeting with the faculty. I stands for introduction to Wikipedia. E for editing Wikipedia. A for, I just, but anyways, IRMS. R is for refresh sessions, and S is for like continuous, you need to support them. So it's something like this. And the core of this is, by the from first generation training to second generation training, we took it as a learning process, and we are still evolving. Actually, we still have our, we are still doing mistakes, and we are accepting that, we are doing the mistakes. And what we can do is in the next level of trainings is we can include our learnings from past two trainings and bring it on to the third one. So I think it was a bit long, but that's okay.
One of the students, our thinking around this was to say that we cannot, or we chose not to explain all of Wikipedia to you in one shot. And we said we will explain the basics, and then we'll hope that you figure it out as you went along. Do you think that was right, or should we have done it differently? If you can give him the mic.
I think it was right, but somehow taking various aspects like linking an article. I wrote something like Sachin Tendulkar is an Indian. Indian is something is linked up. You can click India and you can go on an Indian page. It requires 2 brackets out there. So something that lacked in Wikipedia was they should understand that it's you are teaching a person to edit an article who has no knowledge of a computer system, maybe. Not in terms of linking, but when you design a table, when you design a graph, sometimes these problems occurred, but otherwise, I think the arrangement was really great.
I want to move to another question, and I'm going to embarrass you a little bit. We haven't met since you came to Bombay, but do you have any idea why we are really happy to have you on stage?
Yeah, because I am one of those students who was initially blocked. And I was initially used as a bad example that if you write like this, you will be blocked. But after that, I took it as a challenge, and now I'm really happy to edit, and I'm writing articles.
Okay, so here's my question. The first time when you did the copy paste and put it in, why did you do that, or why?
Initially, actually, the first thing was that we had to meet deadlines, and I was not very much aware of the rules that we cannot copy. It was not complete copy paste, but it was quite close paraphrasing. I was not aware of the fact that we cannot do that. It was not. I was knowing, and I did it. So once I was told, then I looked into it, and I never repeated it.
Would you write Wikipedia? Have you written Wikipedia articles outside of your subject?
No, right now I haven't, but I'm planning to.
Okay, fair enough. I want to ask a question to the professors now about the copy. Oh, sorry, why am I taking your mic? They have one. About the file. Maybe, Shirin, you were the one who, for those of you who don't know, she's regarded as a terrorist of the economics college, although she doesn't look like it. But in terms of the process of how we managed it, one of the challenges that we've had at another college is we were never able to get students to do stuff on time in the intermediate milestones, as a result of which all the problems piled up at the end. And that probably is one of the reasons why Symbiosis Economics did so much better, because we were able to implement those intermediate milestones. How do you do it? Can we do it differently? And what would you do differently better if we had to do it again?
Yeah, you raised an important issue. Is this on? Yeah. You raised an important point saying that in Symbiosis, what we did is we had intermittent deadlines, regular deadlines, um, and that really helped in making sure that the problems were solved right at the beginning rather than cropping up at the end of the term. Whereas in other colleges, it was not the case. Um, I think that would be a very important thing to bring to the notice of the teachers themselves, because they are the ones who would impose these deadlines in class. At the end of the day, the students are going to listen to their teachers. And the teachers are the ones who are finally giving the grade. So the fact that there's a grade attached to it would put in some importance to the matter itself, that it needs to be done on time. So what I did is every 2 weeks I had a deadline of putting in about 250 words. And I would tell them every deadline that you miss half a mark. I will cut half a mark. So that's what I did.
Now, a counter to that could be two things. One is that in the Wikipedia world, it should be entirely voluntary, it shouldn't be timeline based, and it should never have a limit of words.
But if you're attaching it to a campus program, there is there's an element of teaching and learning involved, which would bring in all of these points that you mentioned. If you're working a longer term time where I have grades that I need to submit, I need to see that certain number of words are done. I know a little bit of how the Indian education functions and what kind of a culture and values we are dealing with. So I need to impose these deadlines. I need to scare students with a few marks, tell them that they're going to lose marks, which is when it gets done, and it did get done.
I want to move to Abhishek and SNDT. Now, for those of you who don't know, SNDT is a women's university in Pune. It's relatively speaking, lower income students tend to go there. They have a whole host of issues, lack of computer centers, etc. But it's something that was really close to our hearts because we had 12 girl students who weren't particularly comfortable in English, and they've been struggling to try and get content onto English Wikipedia. Abhishek, how is it going with SNDT, and what can we do? What have you done to give them support?
Firstly, it was difficult to manage at SNDT because of the infrastructure problems, and already the gender gap in the editing Wikipedia is there. So firstly, it was essential to make sure that they enjoy the Wikipedia irrespective of the marks. So firstly, I started conducting the sessions on Saturdays. So it was just initial stage, I just introduced them what is Wikipedia and all. Then I realized that there is something more we have to do, because it becomes boring if I go to the lecture, in between the lectures, and teach them how to edit Wikipedia. So the next thing I planned is the workshop on Sunday. So any random Sunday, come for the 4 hours. We will sit together on 12 different PCs and we will do a collaborative editing. So that's the first thing worked at the SNDT. And yes, we are working very well with this workshop thing.
All right. I want to just go into the second element of support, which is about the support that we've got from the community. And, you know, the good support, and I know that some of you guys think some of the support wasn't particularly supportive, but Devanjan, what's your views on the support that you've got? What could we have done as ambassadors differently? And what do you think regular community folks could have done as well differently?
Well, one point I would say is that I had a lot of support from the global community as such. I'm not criticizing anybody, but the Indian community did not follow up as much as the global community did. What happened was initially the program was not known by many of the editors of the whole global community, but when the copyright violation started, certain editors started blocking the IPs, and that's where the confrontation between the campus ambassadors and the editors started, where we closely worked with the administrators and editors, and they came into the light of this program. And I would mention, like, there were certain editors, one being Kutpung, who became one of the most active people, and he was not introduced to the program. He came on ad hoc basis. I mean, he came when he blocked the IP of my college, and I and Ram started out and reached to him. Which I feel is, in certain cases where we campus ambassadors actually needed the help of the India community, and we even went to the monthly meetup and asked if they could actually provide though I would not say that they did not do anything, but they could have done more, is my opinion. And as campus ambassadors, we also were very stretched to our limits. There were 40 of us in total after both the sessions, both the trainings, but only about 30 were actually active, and we had huge load burdens. I mean, like for example, I was handling about 100 students into 2 articles along with Ram. So that's 100 students per campus ambassador. And if you check at 100 articles, that's a lot of things, and you have to check for copyright violations. And like you say, I would not say that I'm very experienced. I've just started editing Wikipedia through this program also. So I tried to gain experience by learning it, but dealing with so much of copyright violations was a huge aspect. And when the global committee came and stepped in, it was an awesome fact, because certain administrators even taught me how to actually detect the duplication detector. I had no idea what the tool was. I did not know where the link is. But Kukung provided me, and I actually gave those lists to the other campus ambassadors to use as well. But as per, I feel that there should have been more of the Indian community support. This was an India education program. If you look at the project page discussion, I hardly see voices from the Indian community. I myself would consider myself as a part of the Indian community, and I really wanted more support from that. I wish I could get that.
I know that we are running a little short of time, so what I'm guessing is that Arnab comes and then after that we have Q&As. Okay, fine. Sukalpa, one quick one to you. If we had to do it differently, would you do it in a voluntary basis for your students? And would you have any recommendations on what kind of year or what kind of subject areas to take? She teaches corporate social responsibility and is not an economist, as she has violently told me.
I don't think the voluntary thing will work in the Indian context, very frankly speaking, because we are dealing with a whole new thing altogether. I mean, this has not been there in any of the campuses earlier, and our teaching methodologies are also undergoing a lot of change. And being from the social science, the spirit of inquiry really excites. And that's what we are trying to push onto the students through the wiki usage. And I think initially, till they're like kind of okay and getting along with the wiki idea, we will need to have it a little more rigorous way with, kind of punishments and marks being deducted and being scared and stuff like that should be there.
And in terms of what years, is it masters, should it be bachelor's, should it be first, second year, third?
It should be from the second year onwards, not the freshers, because they still need a little bit of grooming on our part.
Then a counter question to the making it compulsory is there will always be kids in a class who will find it difficult to write.
Right.
What do we do for them?
But then that's where we faculties need to step in and kind of help them, because that's the whole point. We want them to change. We want them to become good writers. We want them to develop the spirit of inquiry. I mean, it's not a point of taking them out, right?
I know there are audience questions, so what we'll do is we'll pause and then we will get back for questions. Is that how you want to do it? All right, cool. Do we sit here a bit weird while he's talking, or can we come down? All right, we can come down, right? All right.
Thank you, Hisham, and the wonderful team of campus ambassadors, students, and teachers. We're breaking the schedule up a little bit. We're fortunate to have Arnab Goswami, the editor-in-chief and news anchor at Times Now TV. So what we'll do is we'll hear Arnab. We have a 5 or 10 minute Q&A with him, and then we'll come back to the campus ambassadors and India Education Program and do a Q&A with them. To introduce Arnab Goswami is a daunting task, so I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to lay the context for what he's speaking about. One of the core pillars of the Wikimedia movement is what we call NPOV, or the neutral point of view. Arnab is going to be talking about neutrality as an important pillar in the news media as well. Over to Arnab.
Thank you very much, and thank you for the introduction. And congratulations to the organizers of the WikiConference India. I am not associated with neutrality. Those who watch my programs know that I have been accused of violating the basic norms of neutrality in Indian journalism consistently, and even more so in the course of my last 5 years as the head of Times Now. I would like to begin by posing a question to all of you today. What is neutrality? Do we overrate neutrality? How can you be neutral all the time? Is being neutral all the time, does it amount to being a person who's trying to hide your point of view? Are you defensive and are you neutral therefore? Are you scared? Is it because you're scared that you choose to be neutral? Are you worried about expressing your own views and is that the reason why you are neutral? Or let me give you a more basic example. If you're an Indian and dealing with an India versus Pakistan issue, are you really neutral? How can you be neutral when it comes to your own country? And therefore, I'd like to say, I always say this. In an issue between India and Pakistan, I am 100% biased and I'm proud of being biased. For all those people out there who say that in the issue between India and Pakistan, if you're discussing Kashmir, if you're discussing Siachen, if you're discussing Sir Creek, if you're discussing the manner in which President Zia-ul Haq wanted to cut and bleed India by 1,000 cuts, and if you want to say at the end of it that despite being a holder of an Indian passport, I will be completely neutral and give 100% importance to the Pakistani point of view as well, then I feel there is something innately wrong and unethical with that. You are not being fair to your own country. I'll give you an example. 3 months before 26/11, an event which changed my life and the way I look at journalism. There was an instance in which 4 Pakistan-sponsored terrorists had crossed the line of control from an area near Jammu, gone inside Jammu, entered the Jammu cantonment area. They took an auto rickshaw driver hostage. They put a gun to his head and they said, take us to the area where the army headquarters in Jammu are. They wanted to enter the area. They were armed with gelatine sticks and RDX and all the usual ammunition that these Pakistani-backed terrorists carry. They panicked at the gates. They shot the Havaldar at the gate. They could not enter the cantonment, thank God. And then they took that auto rickshaw and went around circling like cockroaches all over Jammu. Eventually, they went to an outskirt of Jammu where in one small house, a lower middle class house, 2 mothers were giving tutorials to 4 children. The children were aged, if I'm not mistaken, between the ages of 7 and 13. As I watched that event, as I broadcast that event, I could not be neutral. How is it possible to be neutral when 4 Pakistan-backed terrorists have entered a lower middle class home and are holding 4 children hostage? This was 4 months before 26/11. That night, I happened to have, by complete circumstance, a few Pakistani generals on my show and a former Pakistan minister. I asked my usual round of neutral questions. I asked one after the other neutral questions to the Pakistani guest, and when eventually I ran out of neutral questions and he ran out of neutral replies, and this whole charade of neutrality had been carried on live television for 15 minutes, I asked him, Mr. So-and-so, will you just tell me whether the 4 men who have been sent by your country and are holding 4 Indian children and their mothers hostage are cowards? It was a stupid question. It was what you would call, in the parlance of editorialized and philosophical journalism, a layman question, not an informed question. But I think at that point of time, it communicated the facts of the issue far better than any highfalutin neutral question would put. It was a straight question, coming from an Indian to a Pakistani. If I, at that point of time, were to discount the fact that I am a proud Indian, and if my guest on the other side were to try and discount the fact that he is a Pakistani, then we would not have any honesty in the discourse. And therefore, I had no answer from my Pakistani guest. What is neutrality? Neutrality to a lay person means having no opinion, exerting no influence, being non-aligned, endorsing no stance. And therefore, I follow up with one question to that. In an obvious choice between right and wrong, should you stay neutral? I have often grappled with that question myself. And the answer has been no. If an obvious choice between right and wrong, I stay neutral, then I am violating the basic ethics of my profession. How can I be neutral, ladies and gentlemen, when I see the story of Keenan and Reuben? That story of Keenan and Reuben, which was put before the national and international media, thanks to the coverage on Times Now, they were stabbed in public view before a coffee house. People were there sipping their coffee as these 2 boys were stabbed in full public view with a gang of men in Mumbai, armed with swords and knives, when no one came to their rescue, when their friends were being eve-teased, when they were butchered and stabbed, when they were taken to the hospital, when as one of them died on the way to hospital and another of them sitting inside the hospital was interrogated by policemen, which is absolutely brutal, my question to you is, should I still choose to look away and say, because I believe in the spirit of neutrality, I will remain neutral, I will not ask probing questions, I will report the facts? I'm sorry, but I do not believe in that form of neutrality. For me, that is fake neutrality. And if in this country today with 1,000 problems, we believe that a simple summary of the facts is an answer to the solution that we are seeking, then we are fooling ourselves. On the 16th of November, a lady called Sister Valsa, 52-year-old, was murdered most brutally. She was axed to death by 40 men in the Pakur district of Jharkhand, by a group of 40 unidentified men. They dragged her out of her house because she was defending the rights of a poor tribal girl. They axed her to death. Today, instead of trying to find her killers and the motive, both the ruling party and the opposition in her state are making allegations and counter-allegations. My question to you is, at that point of time, should I, as a purveyor of modern-day Indian journalism, in an age when every teenager and tween expresses opinion in 140 characters on Twitter, should I pretend as the head of a media house to stay neutral? What then is my responsibility towards bringing about change in this country? Journalism is an agent of change. I want to ask you one thing. If I as a journalist, or if you as a citizen, become personally apathetic to situations, it will result in an absolute absence of opinion. Opinion is an agent of change. Opinion must be encouraged. Honest opinion must be welcome, must be stoked. Having just a summation of facts makes me today in 2011 an outdated model of the pre-British era when journalists were nothing but the gazetteer of India, and I think it is time for modern-day contemporary India to reject these fake definitions of what is neutrality in journalism. Let me give you one example. In the December of 2010, I was troubled by a story which had gone unnoticed all across this country. It later began to be referred to after 15 days of reporting in the Christmas of 2010 as the Banda rape case. A teenage girl had been raped by a powerful MLA and then framed and arrested for a theft she did not commit. These are the kind of cases that get reported all the time. If I was a neutral journalist in the standard era, I remember when I joined television, the first thing I was told, do not express your opinion. The moment you express your opinion, you sully your neutrality. And the moment, by that definition, you sully your neutrality, you are no longer a good journalist. Say anything, but don't tell us where you stand. My question today is, as I began Times Now and began to experiment with expressing my opinion, I feel there is nothing unethical in expressing my opinion, because if we did not express our opinion, that girl in the Banda rape case, I can assure you in this vast country, which goes far beyond the cloisters of elite institutions like this, would not get justice. It is only when you make opinion the basis of national chorus, when you bring out the sense of outrage which is there in all of us, when you stoke the anger which is inside all of us, that you make young India come out on the streets and you tell them, we will not accept this injustice anymore. What happened in the Banda rape case can happen to any of us. What happened in the Keenan and Reuben case can happen to any of us. The manner in which Sister Valsa can kill, there are hundreds of Sister Valsas who are being killed all around us. The injustice that Pakistan continues to wreak upon India by trying to bleed India with 1,000 cuts is absolutely unfair. To ask the questions why the same Indian army soldier who gets 10,000 rupees a month and who risks his life standing there in Kashmir should be denied his rights to be protected by the Armed Forces Special Powers Act. You can have 2 points of view on it, but to not express an opinion on it is itself an injustice. When you express an opinion, it is the basis of an agent of change. Now let me tell you a couple of other points. 26/11 changed my life. After 26/11, you and I all saw the completely farcical trial that was going on in Pakistan. Why should I then, as an agent of so-called neutrality, say, well, let's give 50% of the view on India, 50% of the view on Pakistan, and we hope that in the giant marmalade which we come out with, people will get a flavor of what is the truth. That is absolutely not true. Kasab's trial, should we not follow it with our heart in it? Are we as Mumbaikars not involved with what happened in 26/11? Do we not see the unfairness of what is happening in the manner in which the Kasab trial is carrying on. I heard day before yesterday I did a program, and I know that many of my competitors today like to deride me for having too much opinion. I tell them, go out on the streets of this country and find out how much opinion people have. And if you expect me as an editor-in-chief today of a mainstream Indian channel not to have opinion, you should look elsewhere. There is a man called Manu Sharma. The last time he killed in 1998, you would remember, Manu Sharma went in and with the arrogance of a politician's son, shot dead Jessica Lal in broad daylight, a model. It was given a lot of importance, of course, because it was a typical urban crime. But that's not the story. The bigger crime is Manu Sharma gets parole whenever he asks for it. When he got parole the last time, he said, I have to go out and look after my ailing mother. We can go out and check how many under trials in India actually get parole. When he went out, it was later found out that Manu Sharma was having a party in one of the most expensive nightclubs in Delhi while he was supposed to be looking out after his ailing mother. And his mother, instead of ailing, happened to be inaugurating high-profile five-star cricket tournaments. It was a complete aberration of the law. But what was a bigger aberration of the law was that 3 days back, Manu Sharma got parole again. And the Delhi police, which had said 1 week back that we won't give Manu Sharma parole, gave him parole on the bizarre ground that Manu Sharma, you will get parole, but please don't go near a nightclub. That night I asked whether there is something specific in the gene of Manu Sharma that ensures that whenever he enters a nightclub, he will pick up a gun and shoot someone. Is it possible that Manu Sharma won't shoot someone outside? What is the precedent that we are setting? What are the norms of parole? Should we not ask these questions? I have seen the pain of Priyadarshini Mattu's father. I don't know if we remember this case. But can I ask today that if I were completely neutral to this case, why should I ask whether a 25-year-old law student in Delhi who was found raped and murdered on her house and who was raped and murdered by the son of a police inspector general, whether that son of the police inspector general would have got justice had there not been a complete uproar over the case? What about the Pratibha Murthy case? I remember this case, I don't know if all of you remember it, but I have seen the pain in the family of Pratibha Murthy because 5 years after her rape and murder, the driver of a car who raped and murdered her was still away from justice. At that point of time, should I do just a summary enactment of the facts? My point, ladies and gentlemen, is very simple. Had we been, and I want this House to consider this fact today, had we been neutral as per the definitions of neutrality that my elders taught me when I entered journalism in 1995. Had I been neutral in my reporting, had I been neutral in my reportage and my coverage as per that antiquated definition of neutrality, because today's definition of neutrality is honest and aggressive neutrality, not fake and contrived neutrality. Fake and contrived neutrality must now be rejected. Honest and aggressive neutrality must be welcome. In honest and aggressive neutrality, it is my right to take a position between an obvious right and an obvious wrong. If I see a black and a white, I must know where I stand. And if I don't, then I'm not being true to myself. I'd like to summarize my views by asking this House a few questions. Had we been neutral in our reporting or coverage as per that definition of neutrality, would we have been successful in unearthing the many scams that have hit this great nation of ours? If those scams had not been reported, how would this great nation of ours have been today? Consider India 2009 and India 2011, and you will have our answers. Consider the Commonwealth Games scam which Times now broke. Consider the fact that this kind of reporting does not come free without influence or pressure or prejudice, and you will realize that India has woken up today to a new definition of neutrality. Would we have ensured justice to the killers of Jessica Lal and many others? Would that antiquated definition of neutrality which has been rejected by India today, would it have succeeded in educating our people about political players ahead of the elections? Is neutrality sometimes therefore a convenient cover to avoid taking a stand on an issue? Would a no-opinion media vehicle be watched? Would a no-opinion media vehicle be respected? Would a no-opinion media vehicle be looked out for? These are some of the questions. I'm grateful that you've given me an opportunity to present my point of views before you. I once again thank the organizers of this conference and thank Thank you very much. Would you like to take questions?
Thank you very much, Arnab. We have time, we have about 5 to 10 minutes for questions. Given the very interesting perspective and neutrality that Arnab has given us, and given how I think it might be challenging for the Wikipedia community where neutrality is a core feature, and that we both in a way document history for posterity's sake, if there's someone who'd like to take a response on this, so can I do this in order? Achal, would you like to start? Do you want to use a mic?
Is it on? It is. Arnab, hi. My name is Achal Prabhala. I'm a Wikipedian, like many of the people here. And thank you. That was a very emotional and passionate talk on your perspective on neutrality. And I'm really glad that towards the end you talked about an honest and aggressive neutrality as a way to rescue the idea of it from a passive and sort of effete and ineffective neutrality that you were talking about earlier. One of the interesting things about being a Wikipedian, and this is something that I was puzzled by when I started out meeting people in the movement and then became really excited by as time went on, is the fact that people are attracted to Wikipedia from just about every kind of perspective. So there are, far left, probably, Communist Party card-carrying members who think that it's the new Marxist heaven. There are people who are far right, libertarian, anarcho-libertarian, from an anarcho-libertarian perspective, who come to it, who think that this is in fact the ideal model. No government as such, so no restrictions in the way that a government would impose on a vast arena of public information. One of the nice things about being here is that one sees the value that each of these perspectives can bring. That's been pretty confusing for me because I work as an activist, and I'd probably identify much more with sort of a center-left or, sort of far-left ideology than anything else. But I've been incredibly attracted to and really like the fact that I get to know people who are libertarian or Reaganist in perspective and like them very much, and also value what they do. And so the concept of neutrality on Wikipedia, I'd suggest, is not to disguise the truth. It's not to make it more sanitized. It's not to hide perspective, but rather to be able to document perspective as it unfolds and allow the reader of a page on a very contentious topic, let us say the Israeli-Palestinian dispute, to be able to come to a reasoned conclusion himself or herself based upon an accumulation and sorting of the most reliable facts, opinions and perspectives and historical timelines that are available about that issue. I think that there's a way by which opinionators and hardcore opinion-making services in journalism have a great deal of value. There is another kind of public value that a page on Wikipedia on an incredibly contentious topic has, which is that it allows for a place where different harsh but factual perspectives can meet, not in terms of opinion, but meet in terms of equally contributing to somebody else's perspective on that issue, and allow that person reading that page to come to an independent and reasoned conclusion as to what it is that he or she wants to think about that going forward. It's an extremely valuable perspective, and it's in that sense that we think about neutrality. And certainly, I would hope, not in the perspective of trying to hide fact or to turn something that we should be passionate about into something that in fact has many sides. I'll stop now, but there are probably others who have interesting perspectives on this. But thank you again.
I agree with you. I agree with you. And when I say, you see, I'm talking about today's India's mainstream media. What you do at Wikipedia is something I welcome. I access Wikipedia myself. I only tell myself when I access Wikipedia that it is an interesting compendium of facts. Nothing here is told to be the absolute truth. So as long as you believe that it's not the absolute truth, as a compendium of facts, I think it's fantastic. What I'm saying is, in today's mainstream India, it has become fashionable to say between India and Pakistan, we'll perhaps lean more on the side of Pakistan in order to appear neutral, and I don't believe in that kind of fake neutrality. What Wikipedia does is something I welcome, and I think I use it very often, but I don't think even you say it's the absolute truth. So nothing's the absolute truth. Yeah.
If we can process the questions in the order in which we received the gentleman in the orange. Do you want to grab a...
Yeah, my name is Manish, and besides being on Wikipedia, I'm also a student of history and a student of law. So I understand some of the problems that, or ideas of neutrality and objectivity cause. I think the trouble is less about being distant in the sense of being that passive neutrality that you spoke about, as much as about recognizing that there are multiple perspectives to a particular issue. So for every ordinary person on the streets in Bombay who has a view on Kashmir, there's somebody on the streets in Karachi and there's somebody on the streets in Srinagar who has a view. Right? And I think the solution or the maturity in reporting, whether on Wikipedia or in the media or elsewhere, lies in being able to project that the fact that there are these multiple views, the fact that there are people on different sides of the issue who are connected with the issue who have these things to say, and being able to recognize those views and project them.
In order to encourage somebody's point of view, I should pretend not to have a point of view myself. Like every Indian, I have a point of view. I don't try and put a sheath on it when I'm on television, and I think today's journalist must be a little open about his point of view and open to others' point of view as well. That is the basis of healthy debate. We need healthy debate in this country. That's all, you know.
Thank you. We'll take 3 more questions. 1, the gentleman there, 2, and Vishaka, 3. Netra, the mic here, please.
Hello, Arnab. I'm Vikas Thakur. You said about some cases, like Priyadarshini Mattu and all those cases, and sons of influential people. But I have seen some situations which were quite opposite. One of my friends, who happened to be son of influential parents in Jharkhand, he was framed in Jharkhand.
Jharkhand.
Yes. He was framed by his parents' rival for a rape. Police knew it, police found it out, they didn't file a report. But media, on the other hand, published against him and told him that he attempted a rape and things like that, and he got a bad name. But the actual fact was otherwise. He was framed by his parents' rivals. So what do you think should have been the viewpoint of media in this case? They should have been neutral and found out about the case.
Yes.
So what is your viewpoint?
My own view is that before we pick up a story and take a point of view on it, it is our responsibility to ascertain the facts to the depth that we can. And sometimes one of the pitfalls of journalism is that in our rush to express an opinion and appear to be an arbiter of justice, we sometimes do not go through the facts in as much detail as we should. The cases that I have encountered today, the Jessica Lal case, the Priyadarshini Mattu case, the Pratibha Murthy case, and the Banda rape case, I can assure you, my friend, we went through very painstaking research. Because, you know, otherwise the media can be a very negative vehicle as well. Suppose I go through my own observations and I don't give all points of view equal space and I don't research my facts well, then I can end up doing more harm than justice. So I would like to preface everything I said today by saying, get your facts right. And I look at all facts. Like I told the first questioner today, that, you know, even Wikipedia is a fantastic source of information for us, but then you cross-check it with several other things. Suppose I take a Wikipedia information as the last information. I might be misguided. So I think it's important. I don't know what happened in the unfortunate case which you mentioned, but I can only say that as a professional journalist, I need to exercise more caution in getting the facts right.
I think it might be a little unfair to expect Arnab to stand up for the media at large. Sorry about that. But we have one question from the gentleman here and then Vishaka.
Thank you.
So my question is, when you talk about neutrality, why is the media not neutral towards the urban and the rural sector of India? On one side, just suppose 24 hours since this conference began, somewhat like 46 farmers would have committed suicide as per the census of 2001. My question is, just like there's a suicide in Vidarbha, and on the other side, there's a Lakme Fashion Week where they're displaying cotton garments. On one side, there are cotton garments who have committed suicide. On the other side, there are models who are displaying cotton garments. It is media who is constantly focusing on Lakme Fashion Week, but ignores the rural sector. Where is the neutrality in this?
A very good question. Let me put it to you this way. Times Now doesn't cover Fashion Week, so I have no particular interest in the Lakme Fashion Week. Or in fact, if you'd see on our channel, we least amount of sort of glamour entertainment coverage. Not because we don't like it, but you see, there are different audience segments you have to cater to. When, however, and I think there is a strong realization in even so-called urban media and English media, why do we pick up a Banda rape case? Because generally there is a view that unless you look at the examples of what is happening beyond the cities itself, you will not be able to reach out. Today, the problem of Maoism, the problem of Maoist violence has reached where it is today, frankly, because the Indian media has not paid attention to it for 20 years. We can keep talking about the role of the Indian state, but I have been in journalism for 16 years, and I can tell you I have heard about Maoist violence in the front pages of papers only in the last 1 or 2 years. We've never heard these stories. We've never told stories on the other side. So I accept the guilt which you are telling us. And I genuinely tell you that it is important for us to bring the harsh reality of the chasm between urban and rural India before it is too late. I will not even try and pretend to be defensive with you. But I will absolutely assure you that when we reported the Banda rape case, sometimes our eyes open up. In these big debates about Kamli and Azharuddin and Lakme Fashion Weeks, we forget one side of India. And I can personally assure you that I have some few years in journalism left ahead of me. I will try and take steps towards correcting that. I will assure you it's been a thought in my own mind, and we will do it. I will not say that we are not responsible. That is our guilt. It is our guilt. I live with this guilt every day. That, you don't cater to markets. You cater to the country. And if I'm going to be blind, as a relatively young editor, if I begin to say, no, you're wrong and I'm right, I don't think we'll get anywhere. That's not the spirit of Wikipedia either. So I'll take my first step in accepting our guilt and try and correct it in decades to come. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's interesting, I was looking at your article this morning and it lacked a picture. And I'm pretty sure by the end of the day, we'll have more than one picture up on your article.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
We have time for a last question, Bishaka.
Thank you. But let me tell you this, that for everything that I say about, you see, I'm not trying to sort of plug Wikipedia, but I use Wikipedia quite a lot. And my researchers tell me that I do Wikipedia because I want quick research and I don't have enough time, but I found it very useful. I don't look at my own site, which is my rivals go into my site and I have a conspiracy theory that they write against me. But maybe you can correct that. They say all kinds of things out there. It's okay.
Neutrality, Arnab.
Yes, neutrality, yes.
Okay, shall I start? Okay. So Arnab, thank you very much. I am both a Wikipedian and Bishaka. I'm both a Wikipedian and I actually started life as a journalist. So everything you said really resonated with me in some ways. But taking a cue from you, what I really liked about your presentation was that it was highly provocative.
Thank you.
It took a point of view and a point of view that I totally disagree with. So what I want to ask you is, I disagree with so many things that I'm not going to catalog them here. Maybe I'll write a blog post in response. But the two things that I think really trouble me is, one, the question is not that would neutrality have gotten us justice in, say, the Priyadarshini Matu case. I would rephrase the question and say, would good journalism have gotten us justice in the case of the Priyadarshini Matu case? Because there's a number of other issues with journalism. The second thing I want to say is that in journalism, there is a space for opinion, as we all know, and there is a space for information. My issue with opinion-led journalism is that in these situations, everything becomes very loaded. So for instance, if you start out with a very strong opinion and you are interviewing people, say for instance on a show, it can put you in a situation where you're asking very loaded questions, right? Where the right answers or the kind of information that the person who's watching your show needs may not necessarily come through, simply because you may shut off a certain stream of questions and open up another stream of questions. And what the viewer actually needs is a much more rounded perspective, a sort of way to filter through all the information and come to some sort of decision by himself or herself. And so what I would actually like to ask you is, you said that you're against weak neutrality and you're in favor of strong, aggressive neutrality. I think it would help if you could define what that actually means.
Okay. See, for me, First of all, I want to say this again. I am a strong believer in neutrality. It's just the nature of the neutrality which I question. Priyadarshini Mattu, let me take up the case of Jessica Lal and Priyadarshini Mattu. Now, it was a changing point, it was a turning point in Indian journalism too. And you have been and you know that there is something which changed in our own hearts, because something what I believe as more as a human being, that when a wrong is committed to you or someone close to you, or when you think that a person was killed in circumstances that you might as well have been or someone you love could have been in. When someone is shot at in a nightclub in that way, or when somebody is sitting in a coffee shop, you know, any of us could have been sitting in a coffee shop where a bunch of people with swords and knives came and killed Keenan and Reuben. Any of us could have been. And I believe that journalism changes when the journalist begins to ask himself that, look here, I could have been in that situation myself. And therefore, what happens is, instead of being passively neutral, the journalist becomes aggressively neutral and he says, this is beginning to encroach, it could have happened to me. And I think that's a very good thing, because as the gentleman from here said, we have closed ourselves to the chasm between urban and rural India. And one of the reasons why we don't relate to the rapes and murders and caste atrocities and private armies and killings and zamindari systems and jajmani systems and all the things which exist in rural India is because we don't experience it. I genuinely believe that if some of us were to go and live among those people, maybe my perspective of things would change. I equally believe that if one of us would live, you know, in a situation where we wouldn't have dreamt of being or experienced a crime, then our perspective of that would change. That is what I mean. And when that experience changes, you put yourself in the other person's shoes, and therefore your reportage begins to be enjoined with a certain amount of healthy passion. What I mean by aggressive neutrality, therefore, now I'm coming to the definition. You asked me this question. First of all, I don't want to be misquoted in Wikipedia, of all places. I am a great believer in neutrality, but I am a believer in passionate and aggressive neutrality. A neutrality where you close your minds to someone else's perspective and someone else's right to question you equally passionately is not being neutral. That is the fundamentals of being biased. Therefore, in the context of India-Pakistan, if I were to have one point of view and not give time to the guest from Pakistan, or if I were to have a point of view on Maoist sympathizers and not give time to those who support Maoist sympathizers, then I'm... In order not to be prejudiced, I have to be open to somebody else's point of view. What has changed in India is that some things have happened which have, you know, been turning points, which have been wake-up calls. I'm not talking about Anna, I'm talking about Pratibha Murthy, Jessica Lal, Priyadarshini Mattu. You know, when I see someone's old parents, you know, when I saw Pratibha Murthy's mother and the way, you know, a 75-year-old woman going every day to court, being supported by her brother and saying, I don't have the money or resources to fight it anymore, then somewhere I begin to get involved. And my question to the audience today, not as a fundamental fact, is it unethical of me to get involved? I'm beginning to get involved in a story. Is it totally unethical? I'm not taking a point of view on politics. I also want to make a caveat. Having an opinion, aggressive neutrality does not mean supporting this or that political party. That's not aggressive neutrality. I'm talking about human concerns, people concerns, civic concerns. On that, I believe it's time for us to take a little bit of a position. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We don't have time for more questions. Do you have time for a cut?
I'm okay.
All right, we'll take two more questions, the gentleman.
Mr. Goswami, I'm Dr. Krishna Kumar from UK. You get a very convincing talk and the information which you gave on various cases. Thank you. But right in the very beginning, you said everything which a journalist should never ever do. That is biased. In relation to Pakistan and India, you said you would be biased. Once you begin to get biased, you will not be reporting a journalist. You will not be doing a job of a journalist, which is to give a fair view to the public. Having said that, Jimmy Wales, in his opening address, indicated what Wikimedia is all about. Wikimedia is all about, Wikipedia is all about where personal agendas are not raised. Unfortunately, in my opinion, you have used this platform to raise your personal agenda, which I believe goes totally contrary to this conference, which is aimed at creating awareness in India about various Indian languages and the society we live in, but not to raise a personal agenda, which I believe is very unfortunate. You have used the platform to raise your personal agenda, which should have never been allowed by the organizers. But organizers gave you the time and you misused the time, which you ought to have not done. It's not a question, it's an opinion. Thank you.
I think the larger purpose of this conference is also bring together a multiplicity of views so that we can be challenged and discuss this. And I think, if nothing else, that this session has been wonderfully challenging and has asked us to ask hard questions of ourselves, which I think is a positive in itself. So thank you for your view and thank you for your comment. The last question from...
Arnab, this is Somnath Bharti, Advocate Supreme Court. I have been on your show on Bikram Buddhi's case, if you recall. Bikram Buddhi, the Indian national, incarcerated in US for 3.5 years. I must say to the audience that it was Times Now who was the first channel to pick up this story, and I did not see anything other than honesty and integrity in the journalism which Times Now exhibited in this story. And because of your efforts, Bikram Buddhi was out in 3 months. The sentencing, which was kept in abeyance for 3.5 years, happened in 3 months. And I really believed that journalism exhibited by Times Now was unbiased, was working towards the country's benefits and development. I'm thankful for that. Second thing, today, in today's talk, I see you speaking from core of the heart, from your bottom of the heart, because you have been honest in your expression. What I have been saying, this is a very difficult task for you, because what you do as a journalist, it is similar to the duty of a judge. So a judge, while doing a case, while deliberating upon a case, while deciding a case, he has to keep aside his own beliefs. So the way we have this coin term, media trial. So there in media trials, you happen to be the judge in the situation. At the same time, you're a human being. So it's very, very difficult for you to keep aside your own beliefs, your own opinions. But you have a very tough task. You have to keep your opinions aside. Because the moment you say that Arnab Goswami believes in this, then it is sort of a judgment passed on that case. So for you, the moment you say on the channel that you believe in this, it's very, very difficult to believe or understand that is it Arnab Goswami as an individual or Arnab Goswami as a journalist. So that's what probably, it's a very tough task. Yes, I understand that. And very, very tough task. But so we have to be very, very cautious in preserving neutrality of the journalism. But I understand that your problem. Thank you.
You see, the Vikram Buddhi case, which you mentioned, the Keenan and Reuben case, the Jessica Lal case, the Priyadarshini Mattu case, these are cases which affect all of us. See, I'm also a journalist, I'm an editor, I'm a human being, I'm a citizen. And these various identities, they all, I think, as the gentleman there said, unfairness should not be done by the media. You should check your facts very well. Very, very well. And as the gentleman there in the front seat said, he said, I misused this place. I said, but I respect his point of view to say it. He may feel that being between India and Pakistan, what I mean as a provocative comment to deliberately, that as an Indian, I tend to lean on of India, but that does not mean I close my points of view to my guests from Pakistan. I have to give them space as well. I think as journalists, we have to pick and choose cases well, with care, research in great detail. And no, I don't think we should pretend to be judges. Our job, I believe, ends with bringing a matter to public opinion. I did it. In the Keenan case, I just want to summarize by one thing. It can be argued, sir, if I take your logic or if I take someone's logic, that you pick up Keenan and Reuben, you believe that the injustice has been done and you fight for them and you don't give a chance to the other side, you lambast the police, you go on and on. My responsibility, sir, in Keenan and Reuben, and in India, Pakistan, and every other case is to bring both sides on the same table. And I felt this great sense of fulfillment when Keenan's father came with the chief minister on the program 3 days later. And people called me and said, that's where your responsibility ends, Arnab, because you made, and the father called me, he said, thank you. I got heard to the chief minister. Chief minister called me, said, am I going to get into a debate? I said, no, this family needs a sense of sympathy, a sense of solace. They need to know that the highest person in the city or the state is listening to them. That is my responsibility as a journalist. That's where my involvement ends. I am not the judge. Because I need to bring all sides on the table together, get them talking, and that's it. I have no exaggerated sense of self-importance. Believe me, when I still go sometimes to where I used to live in Delhi, the guy at the petrol pump says, oh, you come in that TV serial. So I know that, a journalist can have an exaggerated sense of self-importance. I keep both my feet and shoulders firmly on the ground. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Arnab. We know you have a punishing schedule, and we'd like to thank you for taking the time out to come.
Thank you, every media, for calling me. It's been fantastic interacting with all points of view. Thank you very much.
Thank you. A local Wikipedian at the conference asked me to point this out to you, that your article now does have a picture.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
I'd like to ask Hisham and his wonderful band of campus associates, teachers, and students to come back up, and we can do the Q&A now.
They can actually travel and go and meet people and interact, people coming from there, people coming from there. Is there funding for that? Is that a possibility?
Actually, in the program, we had a campus ambassador from the US who came down for 3 months to Pune. And what he did for 3 months was to help set up the project in Pune.
Hello.
It's fairly conceivable to assume that experienced campus ambassadors from one country should and could be able to go somewhere else. But it's also reasonable to expect that you won't have, hundreds of people flying around. Where there is an additional element of collaboration is that if I'm a campus ambassador or an online ambassador in the US, they can and have and will continue to help the Indian program. And when we roll out in Brazil or roll out in the Middle East, it will be wonderful to see the Indian folks help those guys out, whether in a physical, real-life capacity or in an online capacity. But yes, we would love to build this kind of collaboration. The more we get, the more it's going to be good for us.
Hello, this is Harriet. You said this was a pilot, so I'm assuming you're planning to duplicate this program elsewhere?
I'd be really careful and not say duplicate, because I'd get my ass whipped. No, so we don't intend to duplicate anything. No, not even replicate, no. So this was a pilot. We tried it out in 3 colleges with just under 1,000 students in Pune. What we're doing right now is, understanding what went right, what didn't go right, and, a whole host of learnings we've spoken about. But it is important to take those learnings and distill them into something better. So version 2.0 that comes out will presumably incorporate things like voluntary participation or a significantly reduced scale of numbers. I'm just jumping to the conclusion, but for sure we want to try it out. Lessons in terms of the kind of colleges that we go to, the kind of faculty, etc., etc.
Thank you.
I'm coming from Calcutta. I wanted to ask whether you have certain geographical focus or priorities as far as these kind of pilots are considered.
We don't have any predetermined geographical priorities. We happen to start off in Pune. One of the decisions that we need to take is, where do we go next? Do we continue to remain in Pune? Do we have the ability to try out somewhere else? I don't think we'll be able to we'll have the capacity to roll it out in too many places. But on the face of it, if you ask me personally, a city like Calcutta has a wonderful tradition of awesome education institutes and a whole bunch of great writers. So there is potential, but I don't know right now what our capacity is.
If you want to reach there, how would you plan to start off?
If we were to reach out in Calcutta?
Right. Suppose if I am interested to take it there, I'm not a college student, but...
fair enough.
Yeah.
No, so... Again, I'm jumping to conclusions in terms of the learnings, but it's pretty clear that we need a reasonably large local community that's active on the program. My initial assumption of Calcutta would be that we might not necessarily have those numbers on the ground right now.
As far as Wikipedia is considered.
As far as Wikipedia is considered.
Data says that Calcutta has got the largest, highest density of higher education institutes in the whole country.
And this website called Wikipedia says Pune has that, so I'm not really sure. No. But jokes aside, I think it's one thing to have the highest density of education, but one of the lessons that we've learned is we really need a lot of folks who understand Wikipedia, who get editing, who get the policies. I mean, these guys have learned it, on the fly, and I really would like to avoid. It's been exciting, but slightly traumatic. And we'd like to avoid that going forward. So maybe a solution could be that I'm just thinking loud, we decide that we want to look at something in Pune, in Calcutta, we hire or we select a bunch of campus ambassadors, we give an extended training period for them to understand it, for them to become editors, etc. So in a sense, we build that community if the decision is to go to Calcutta. But while I'm telling you this, I'm also thinking through how complicated and time consuming that might be.
We
will come to you.
May I, please?
Yeah, please.
Basically, I'm an assistant professor at Jadavpur University and I teach literature. My point of view is I kind of agreed with the faculty from Pune who said that there is an element of persuasion and a coercive persuasion that is required in the Indian education system. However, when we teach our students who study literature and they have excellent writing skills and most of them are multilingual, and they're very, very channelized in what they want out of their careers and eventually what they want out of life. Sure. So I believe there's a certain amount of incentive which is required if it's not remunerative, which maybe at one point they do not want that. But they would certainly be looking for a certificate or maybe a 2-month internship. I mean, because I've seen them doing stuff like this for Nat Geo or Discovery or things like that, and they're willing to work hard, but there has to be something at the end of the day which is there with them. On an institutional basis, because I teach at a university where you have the engineering faculty and the science faculty and the arts faculty. So it's a very huge university system like any others. So there's a very traditional setup, but which is open to possible, which is why I'm talking about exchange, because exchange is something that everyone is very keen on. And more so rather than them coming here, of us going there. Not us as in faculty, but definitely students at the undergraduate or at the master's level. Because before that, they need to know what their priorities are, and they're very sure about their priorities. And they would pick up being an editor on Wikipedia. I'm talking about an urban elitist, or rather I'm talking about people who come to partake of education in an urban university in Calcutta. But I'm talking about a very general audience of people who belong to different social status, different kind of class categories, different pockets in the rural area, but they need their priorities straightened out. So they would rather do a private tuition for 400 rupees a month, which gives them some money to see them through, rather than something which would enhance their writing skills, because that's been enhanced either way out through our class discussions or this university system. So, if there are possibilities of internships, certificates, something like that, or some kind of remuneration, because I understand Wikipedia does not encourage that, but if there is some possibility for students to have remuneration, because I'm talking about different socio-cultural contexts, because if India being a vast country, there are different social backgrounds, so that's important, I believe.
Just a factual error. When you said coercive persuasion and you were quoting the faculty members there, they actually said fear and scare, because they're far less diplomatic than you, but that's just a minor point. Okay, on the question of incentive, in terms of what is it that students get out of it, there is some things that we think as, program folks or as teachers that the students should be having or would gain if they got critical thinking, writing skills, research skills, etc. But these are not immediately obvious to the student, and it's not something that's tangible. If you look at the experience of students on the ground, the kind of things that they take recognition for are, for example, the student who says, I went back home and I showed my mum the article that I wrote, because otherwise, where would I have shown it to her? It would have just been filed. I'll just come to that. The second one would be looking at one of the links on the page, which tells you that last month, 3,400 people read my article. A more selfish one would be, what are the kids from the Economics Institute going to do? When they file their applications for, masters or for jobs, I'm quite sure a few of them are going to say, these are the following 3 articles on Indian economy that I have written on Wikipedia. Chances are that's going to give them an advantage. Of course, we should continue to give recognition. Of course, we should continue to do motivation. I'm not so sure about the monetary part of it, and I think we would collapse if we gave everyone internships. But for sure, if there are good students, I mean, we would love to have a student, for example, who wasn't a campus ambassador, come join us as a campus ambassador because they get it already. And hopefully they'll push it through forward. Yeah.
Ma'am, just stating one point of yours, like you said that whether you can give certificates or not, in my opinion, you already get a certificate on Wikipedia itself. I mean, what does a certificate signify? That you were a part of this program. But if you just go to the India education program, if you tell an employer that, look, you go to this link and you will find my name there. You might find the username, but when you click it, you will find the user page of that person. And that itself is a certificate on Wikipedia.
Just taking on to the point of spreading of this ambassador program, I belong to an institute where the students, it's a small group of institutes where students use a lot of Web2 tools. Would you like to spread out? This is in Rajkot, Gujarat. Would you like to do such a pilot there also?
We want to continue small. I think we want to do version 2 as a much smaller scale that we did version 1. We want to make, get all the learnings, get it really, really right the second time around. One of the things that we are going to do is document every component that's required for the program. And I'll be more than happy to share that with you, and we can start talking about what we could do going forward. But I'll be honest and tell you that I don't think we have the bandwidth to be able to spread out too far at this point in time. Yeah? Nupur. You have to own up to a wrong, and you must do so publicly. Okay, after she asks a question, we will do that. Okay.
So the question that I want to ask is sort of what has been anticipated by a few questions here, which is about how you came about to select the students that you wanted to work with. So there are a couple of suggestions and questions. How did you do that? I'd like to know more details about that. And on the other hand, what I was thinking is, have you worked with postgraduate students? Why? Because being a postgraduate student, I realized that there is a lot more emphasis on academic rigor. Something like plagiarism is absolutely not entertained in postgraduate courses. So to say that if we have a course like research methodology, it is absolutely essential that people follow best practices like what Wikipedia encourages. So probably going forth, if you concentrate on people who are already into these unspoken rules, would it work out better?
Okay. Ironically, one of our subjects was research methodology, and we had some amount of copy bios in that as well. So that bit of the thing didn't quite work out. Having said that, we have one master's class. It's still running. From what we are gathering so far, there appear to be, relatively speaking, lesser issues that might not necessarily... Sorry, we have 2 masters, okay, in SNDT as well. Thank you. And neither of them appear to be having as many copy bio issues. Now, it might be because it's a master class. It might also be because they started relatively late and we've been speaking copy bio so much that, it's drifted down. But it is an important point to keep in mind. On the selection of colleges and students, when we started this whole thing in June or May or June, we did what you would almost do as business development. It was mercenary. I would write cold emails to faculty saying, we are from Wikipedia, we have this wonderful program, would you like to talk to us? And they wouldn't answer, and then I'd reply, send another note and a third note. It was like I was trying to sell them a, Nokia package deal or something. We got meetings with a bunch of people. Shrikesh sat through some fairly entertaining ones, which didn't quite go according to plan. I'll be honest and say, I think one of the mistakes that we made, or I made, is I got desperate at some point, and I was almost at a stage where I would sign up with anyone who agreed to work with me. And so when we left SSC, for example, we were like, these guys aren't going to sign up, let's go somewhere else. It almost came as an afterthought, and people who showed enthusiasm in the meetings we thought would be fantastic and we would do it. We've subsequently stopped one college, which is the engineering college, and along the way we'd actually dropped modern college as well. I think there are big lessons there. It's important for the director to be on board, but it is essential to have faculty members who get it. The kind of classes that you're going to, the kind of opportunities that the kids would have to write Wikipedia articles on software engineering, it's pretty hard. But, you know, Indian economy, there are large open spaces for them to try and write in. Maybe we should have looked at local languages. We tried hard at SNDT, but we could never get the Marathi professors to agree to want to do it, aside from the infrastructural issues of them not having the students not having computers, etc. But I think the next time around, the lesson is we want to be more discerning with both faculty, teachers, as well as students. But you live and learn.
I think that's a good place to wrap the Q&A session up. Just given that the India Education Program has been enormously learning experience for all of us, and that it's been challenging for everyone involved, the students, the teachers, the campus ambassadors, and Hisham and his team, I think we owe them all a fairly warm round of applause for even attempting to try, and we have now a roadmap going forward. That marks the end of the session, only about 15 minutes late. 2 housekeeping announcements. If you've received a scholarship to attend this conference, scholarship reimbursement forms are available on my right in the Wikimedia booth. There are also membership forms for the Wikimedia chapter in India. We urge you to become members and help contribute your voice and time to the direction of the Wikimedia movement in India. And one last announcement.
Thank you. Thank you very much. For those who are still sitting, I signed up to be an online ambassador for this program because there was an urgent call for help. I apparently dolled up, not apparently, I admit that probably I dolled up my application. And even though I committed up to 5 hours a week, I did not give even 1 hour to the program in a situation where the program was in a very bad state. If we sign up for things like this, I hope I and others who sign up for things like this will be able to keep our commitment. Thank you. I am sorry for the program. I couldn't help in its hour of need. Thank you very much.
Thank you.